Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian and Brian for Breaking Down Security, Episode 7, Part 2 of our interview series with Kevin Johnson. We got this part of our interview on Saturday afternoon, right after the Capture the Flag. We're going to go right on into it. This is Kevin Johnson. Sorry about the audio. I will try to scrub it as much as possible, but the first 5 minutes are a little low, and we will try to make it. It does get better as it goes along. So without further ado, here's Kevin Johnson.
Hey, jump in when you...
I will. I actually thought of a few while we're here. So.
Okay. You're pen testing and you've got a WAF, you detect a WAF or a IDS or something. How do hackers bypass?
How do hackers bypass? Yeah. How do you bypass controls? Well, first off, just to be clear, you don't bypass an IDS. I don't care if you have an IDS and it's alerting away. An IPS would be an issue, right? And the reason I say that is because in most cases, we're not trying to be subtle. The client hasn't hired us to see if they can detect us, right? They want to see what we can find that are vulnerabilities.
But they want to detect you. They want to say, oh,
we
found, we see them. We're not blind.
Absolutely. And so a lot of times we will then compare what we did to what they saw, right? And so we're not trying to do these hugely advanced techniques to bypass that IDS, right? Sometimes we have been asked, hey, we think we have a pretty solid intrusion detection. See if you can get in without us noticing it. That is a test we can do, and we do them. It's just not the typical test. Now, web app firewalls is different, and IPS is different. As a matter of fact, just last week, one of the engagements we were working on last week was, okay, it's a black box test. We have an IPS. On day one, see if you can find anything that the IPS lets you find, right? Okay. And then the guys banged on it for a day or two, and then they loosened the restrictions in the IPS. Now, they did find some really cool things, even with the IPS in the way, because we're good at that, right? And so there's multiple, to answer the fundamental question you had, how do hackers bypass this? It's all, it is all based on what do you look for as a protection. So we try to map that out. So for example, if you had a web app firewall, and I know you have a web app firewall, and you didn't whitelist my IP address or anything else like that.
Backup.
The phone is huge.
It's got a triple capacity battery.
I know, but I never realized how big it was. I was right in the middle of the sentence. But okay.
Sorry.
No, it was my fault. I'm the one who did it. But, so, got a target, got a web application that has an input parameter. Now I want to find out what it blocks. I want to fingerprint what the WAF will block. Right. And so I'll start with single characters. And I'll put a payload that has a single quote. I'll put a payload that has a parentheses. I'll put a payload that has a semicolon. I'll put a payload in, right, to see if it's doing any blocking on specific characters. Because a lot of times you'll find, they block greater thans and single quotes or whatever. Yeah. Then I'll start doing bigger payloads. And the reason I start with the single character instead of the bigger payload is because if I put in less than script greater than and you block me, did you block me because I put a script tag, or did you block me because I had a special character, right? And they're different how I would bypass that. If you were blocking the script tag, now I use an image tag with an onload event, or, right, something like that, and maybe that'll get past the block. But if you're blocking the greater than sign or the less than sign, now I adjust what I'm doing. And one of the things, and I won't go into a long definition of how they are, because I'm going to challenge you guys to find it. They're called data URIs. So DATA URI, right? And they are fascinating. And I have found that in almost every case, I can bypass your web app firewall with them, because most people are not looking for that type of traffic. Okay.
Most people or most companies that...
most people setting that up, most people running that, most companies that are using that. That's a very generic,
Would it be the manufacturer of the web app firewall or the people setting it up?
Both.
That are not
because the web app firewall manufacturer is going to build a core rule set or a stock rule set. Yeah. and then the person setting up has to customize that. If you're just using the stock rule sets, you might as well not even be running it. You're just a bump in the wire at that point in almost every case.
Do you find a lot of installations of WAFs are done incorrectly?
Absolutely. And the reason I find that they're done incorrectly so often is because the sales guy is going to convince you that all you have to do is stand up this appliance and go, woohoo, I have a WAF. And you can check that box on PCI and you're good, right? When the reality is, you have to customize that WAF for your application. And yeah, some of them can go into learning mode and you can deal with that. But even if you do that, you have to do it. You have to exercise the app correctly. You have to build the rule sets correctly. I mean, there's effort there, and there's maintenance and management. And one of the things I always laugh at is I'll say to people, hey, do you have a WAF? Yes. Do you maintain it? Oh, of course we do. How often do you update its rule sets? Oh, every quarter we go in and update it, or every month we go in and update it. Great. How often do you deploy new applications behind it? Oh, we do deployments every day. So you do deployments every day and update rules every month. See the issue? Right? Yeah. And most of the time it's like, no, oh yeah. It's one of those types of conversations. And as we were talking about earlier, it really is just a matter of, did you think about it with the right mindset when you put it together? And most people aren't. Most people are, I apologize, I feel like I'm losing my voice. Most people are just, I'm in the defender mode. I'm gonna block this, and they don't really understand what attacks we're doing.
Yeah.
So same with IPSs.
Same exact thing. Yeah. To me, a web app firewall and IPS are the same exact thing. And I want to be clear because I can just see all the people going, "Oh my gosh, Kevin said IPSs or WAFs are the same thing." As an attacker on the outside world, I'm going to treat them the same way. They are a device that has a set of rules that are examining traffic of some type to see if there's matches, and then they're either going to allow it or disallow it based on that rule set. I'm very aware that the technologies are different and everything else, but if I'm looking at bypassing it, all I have to do is understand what context they're looking at my traffic in, and then build my traffic in such a way that the attack still works, but it doesn't match the pattern they're looking for.
Sure.
Because that's what most of them are doing. So I actually very often, because I come from the network realm in a big part, right? I did development, I did all that kind of stuff, but my first love, I think, was packet analysis and things like that. And so, just looking at packets and seeing what's going on. It's why, I've done work inside of Wireshark, I've done work inside of HPing and stuff like that. Is because I just love it. And so I still, to this day, very often will say IPS when I mean WAF. And I know I'm wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong, but it's habit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
How do you defend against beef?
How do you defend against beef? You don't.
Wow.
Plain and simple.
Plain and simple.
You can't.
No. Don't be vulnerable to cross-site scripting.
Don't click on links.
Don't click on links. Don't be the vector that I use to attack somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what you can do. You can't stop because how are you going to stop it? I can go into Facebook. I can create a Facebook app. Inside the Facebook app, I can have the beef hook. I didn't trick you into clicking the link. I didn't find a cross-site scripting flaw. I built an app that was interesting, right? And considering the fact that what people consider interesting on Facebook is hugely a low bar. I mean, if you had said to me years ago that people would be checking into a website regularly to check virtual crops, I would have laughed at you. But there are actually services that you can pay, so when you're on vacation, they will log into your Facebook account and harvest your crops and feed your fish and do your Mafia, whatever. And I know Mafia Wars and those things the new apps have come out, but
sure,
you're paying people to check a game for you, and you think I'm a nerd, right? Like, come on,
exactly.
But yeah, so what's interesting? So you can't defend against that. You can't defend CNN getting popped and somebody putting a beef hook in CNN, right? Because to your browser, to your system, that's just JavaScript that CNN is using. Does that make sense? So don't be the vector, but that's the only defense you can have.
It's all about educating your people to not click links, but
even if they don't click
you're
links,
never going to prevent that.
But even if they don't click links, if they browse to a website that's been compromised, they get hit.
Yeah.
Right? So it really is just a matter of, let's fix the entire world, and then maybe we'll be better.
When you go into a site, what's the first thing you do? When you
say
log
hello.
in, you get a connection.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. I say hello, hi. So it depends on what I'm doing, right? Because obviously, if I'm doing a network test, and I'm going to focus on network and web, because obviously I'm doing a physical test, that's a completely different approach. If I'm doing a wireless test, it's a completely different approach. But if I'm doing a network test or if I'm doing a web app test, the very first thing I do, well, it's not so much different. The very first thing I do is start seeing what I've got access to, right? Within scope. So if it's just a website, I'm going to browse to the website and start looking at it, right? It's that mapping phase. If I'm going on site, I've typically done recon before I show up. Just because.
Do you charge for recon?
We do fixed rate pricing. And so if you say, I want to test, I'm going to say, that's $1 million. And you say, okay, it's $1 million. It doesn't matter how many hours I put into it. That's how much it is. And obviously $1 million is a made up number.
Yeah.
I'd love to have $1 million contract. We haven't yet. But working on it.
Yeah.
So we... And, most of the time that works out for the customer's benefit because we put in way more hours than we think it's going to take. We just our nature, right? I'm going to, it's like we price our stuff because we price it based on, I think that's going to be 40 hours. Okay, so I'm going to bill you for what I think 40 hours is worth. But then let's be blunt. I'm going to get up in the morning at 9 a.m. And obviously I'll be up before that, but let's just say 9 a.m. I'm going to start, right? 7 p.m. I'm going to finish. Right? If I do that every day, I've already gone over your 40 hours. But then you and I both know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to be sitting in the living room, hanging out with my wife, watching a movie, and I'm going to think, I know how I could do that. And I'll stand up and walk into the office and work on it. If we're at clients' locations, we work in the hotel room. Matter of fact, we purposely book dual suite hotel rooms where there's 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, and then a living area. Instead of 2 separate bedrooms for the 2 separate hotel rooms for the consultants. It's typically cheaper for the client, and we can work into the night together without sitting in a conference room like this in an uncomfortable chair. And you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So we. Would you say, do we charge for recon? Absolutely.
Sure.
But if I do it beforehand,
Yeah. Okay.
How many tools are in your toolbox? Ballpark.
for a website.
No. Well, for pen testing.
Tons.
Hundreds.
I know of hundreds of tools. So with network pen testing, it's very different based on the network. I may, like, one of the tools I love, and it's a commercial tool, it's called DB Visualizer. It's not even a hacker tool, right? It's a Java-based, which we won't hold that against it, database query tool. But it has drivers for like 75 different databases, right? So if I find a Sybase server, it'll connect to it. If I find a MySQL server, it'll connect to it, right? But with a website, I'm not going to use that at all. So if we talk web applications, I have one tool, Burp. Right? I'll probably fire Nikto or Durbust or something like that, but I don't really consider that because it's just kind of a, yeah, let's throw that over there. But I spend all of my time in that pen test, almost, inside of Burp or in scripts I've written to attack the site.
Wow.
If we find SQL injection, I add SQL map to the toolkit. If I find cross-site scripting, I add beef to the toolkit. But that's pretty much it. And now the difference is, and this is going to sound conceited, and I don't mean it that way, but I've got years of attacking websites. I can typically do what I need in Burp faster than it would take me to set up some other tool to do the attack automatically. You know what I mean? And that's just experience. That's just, I've done it, right? And so, oh yeah, I remember we did this 6 months ago or a year ago. Let's do that again and see what happens. You know?
I wonder if Burp does sponsorships. I mean, damn. I mean, straight up.
If you were...
All I know is that the Burp guy needs to send me a kickback
It's real good.
for everything
Yeah,
he
it's a real good app.
because I'm constantly referring people to him. And he doesn't, but
Yeah.
he should.
Yeah.
If he knows it's good for him.
No. I'm still going to recommend it. I use the heck out of it.
If you had to secure PIN data, how would you do it?
Oh,
If you had to.
If I
Coming
had-
from your perspective.
Well, first off,
I mean,
the answer is you do have to. Right? Like,
Well, yeah.
You have
Well,
to secure
you
PIN
don't have
data.
to.
No, I do.
What do you mean you do? For your business?
We take credit cards for some
Okay.
of our training classes, right? We're PCI.
How do you secure PAM?
Encryption.
AES.
Encrypt all over the damn place.
Finest XOR that money can buy.
So you put it in your database.
Encrypted. No. So
Wow.
it depends where we are, right? Yes, I did. See, I did
You
make
just
some
did
more
that, did
encryption
you?
in there. And isn't that good enough? I rot 26 it. But, so, it depends. Like, in transit, we're going to use things. Like, we're going to use TLS to encrypt things in transit. Then if we're going to store it somewhere, if we have to be able to get it back, which in most cases you don't, right? I'm going to hash it. A one-way hash with a salt, maybe even a salt and a pepper, right? So I have a unique salt per user and then a pepper that's application specific. But if I have to get it back, I'm going to use asymmetric encryption. So I'm going to have an public-private key, right? But because I'm controlling both and I'm not handing any one to anybody else, I refer to those as the encrypting and decrypting key. And I know that computer science majors everywhere could freak out, like, but I found that when I talk to developers and I tell them to use public and private keys, then they start saying, so should we send the public key out to the MIT key? So no, don't send. Like, no, this is a key you control. Don't give it to anybody else.
Have a key signing party and get that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, exactly. And so I tend to try to describe them. I say that it's public-private key encryption, it's asymmetric encryption. But then when I describe it, I start talking about it as the encrypting key, the public key, right?
Yeah.
It's going to encrypt the data. And then I have the private key, the decrypting key, that can then decrypt it. And I keep those as separate as possible. So, for example, if my website is accepting sensitive data that I'm going to encrypt, it has the public key. It can encrypt to the database. The application that decrypts it and sends it to the payment processor or whatever, it's on a different server. Maybe if it's segmented away from the web server, right? It's not in the DMZ. It's on some back-end network interface. It really is just a matter of layers, because no matter what you do, a dedicated attacker with enough time is going to get in and get the data, period.
Sure.
Right? Let's raise the bar high enough that when they get in, we go, wow, they deserve that, and then react. Right, that's the big thing I see changing. But that's at the 10,000 foot view. That's how I would do it. In transit, I would use TLS. In storage, I would use a public-private key pair and use asymmetric encryption.
So what do you think about that homogenic encryption that IBM thought about, where you got the encrypting key, you've got the decrypting key, but you have the key that would allow them to manipulate the data in an encrypted form without decrypting the data.
Wow. I'd like to come up with some fancy answer of the research I've done into that and the vulnerabilities I've seen, but the reality is I never even heard of it. So I could make something up. I gotta say, though, that if you're encrypting it, if you got an encrypted key, a decrypting key, so public key, private key, and then a key that allows you to manipulate the data while it's encrypted without actually getting the data,
Yeah.
I gotta believe there's a way to break that.
Like if you want to add one to your whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean,
You can't see it, but I want to add one to it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I only saw the article a couple of months ago. They said they have, a workable type model, from what I understand.
IBM is smart. They made the Model M keyboard, but they stopped selling it, so they're dumb. And it's one of those still, big old clicky clacky keyboard.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, I loved them. I still have one for the terminal for my AS400. It's not a Model M, but it's that clicky clacky keyboard.
Yeah.
And man, that was a tangent. But I just feel like there's got to be it's like when AOL released all that data and they said, but it's been anonymized, and then people showed where they could go into the data and de-anonymize it based on the data. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like, but I can't give you a mathematical formula why I'm not Bill Nye, right?
Yeah.
There's just a gut feel that there's a breakage there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've never even seen the article. I'd love to see it if you could send it over.
Oh, I'll definitely send it. Yeah.
So, how vulnerable are we? As
The three of us, not at all. But
I'm feeling mighty vulnerable right
you
now.
should.
your vulnerabilities depend on your activities.
Yeah, you're a victim.
I'm a victim. Yeah.
How vulnerable are we? We suck.
So you've done pen tests. hundreds of them.
How many times was I kept out?
How many times did you get on the inside? Or
Most.
if you weren't allowed on the inside, could you have gotten
Most.
all their data?
Most.
Is that by
Most.
industry or
Vastly most.
across the board?
Across the board. I was having this conversation last night.
Probably with him.
No, it wasn't with you, was it? Were we?
Well, I don't know. What was the
No,
conversation?
it was David
Oh,
about.
okay.
He was like, "Well, tell me which industries are better." There isn't an industry that are better. I've found banks that have withstood my attacks quite well, and I've found banks that I could walk into the vault. I mean, I found power companies that withstood my attacks pretty well, and I found power companies that I could shut off power for multiple states. I mean, there isn't an industry that's better. There isn't a. It really is across the board in how they determine what's important. And so, I will tell you that, in all bluntness, the state of security today scares the crud out of me. I worry for my daughter's generation. I worry for their kids. Because we're running down this path of insecurity. And we're actually, it's sad, we're actually getting, I almost kicked your phone, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We're actually getting better at security in a lot of ways. But then we're giving up privacy and aspects of the stuff we need to be secure anyways. The fact that people are posting credit card numbers on Twitter, like, hey, did you see the
I
gold credit
saw
card I
that
got?
Twitter handle. It's like,
Yeah.
and he's like, it's just
You need a
supposed to be a
debit card?
farcical site. Do not post your actual credit cards.
But they do it all the time.
And they post pictures
Yeah.
with CVV and everything.
Yeah, we just had a couple of weeks ago, a lady posted a credit card, and when she posted it, she actually said, and it's so cool, the security code on the back is the same as my birthday, 5/23. I was like, ah! Stuff like that. And I think that there's an aspect of it. We'll blame the younger whippersnappers, right? And there's an aspect of it that kids are growing up with technology and they don't understand the privacy aspects, right? But I'm not going to blame the young kids. I'm going to blame us, because it's my job and your job, and to teach our kids what it means not to post naked pictures, and what it's not to post their credit card, and what it's, like, let's start looking at what privacy means and teaching it earlier.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
but
Well, formulate this next question here. How do people get started in pen testing or white hat hacking? I mean, do you recommend any books, or do you recommend learning any programs?
I recommend every class I teach.
Didn't he just say, yesterday it was P, right? P?
Yes.
P-E-E.
Yeah.
That's right.
Practice, explore, and explain.
That's right.
So, I think that the way you get started depends on what you do. There isn't one tried and true path, right? So I can't say to you, go to University of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't say, go to University of Phoenix, get this degree, then apply to this job and do it for 2 years, and then you can be a pen tester, right? I can't say, go take a SANS class, and when you leave the SANS class, you're a pen tester, right?
Your answer probably should be go work at McDonald's.
I think
Wait, what?
Learn how to work,
Yeah.
right? Learn how to work. If you're not willing to dedicate time and effort and do more than you're asked to, you're not going to get very far in this field.
Have a
right?
goal.
Have a goal. Say, this is what I want to do. First off, if you say you want to be a pen tester, the next question I'm going to ask you is, why? Right? What is it about pen testing that makes you want to be a pen tester? Is it sounds cool? That's an aspect of what it is. But there's way more than sounds cool, right? So I tell you, think about your goal, right? If it's pen testers make a lot of money, I'm not complaining about my salary, right? But I'm also not being protested by the Occupy movement. So ask yourself why. And then my answer is get involved in IT, right? I know there's tons and tons of people that leave college and then get hired by a company like White Hat. And I pick on White Hat specifically because they actually posted a blog post about how they hire people straight out of college and in 6 weeks or something,
Yeah.
they're doing tests of websites. And Jeremiah's a great guy. I'm hugely jealous of his success. I mean, I have no problem admitting that, right? But the idea of saying, I'm going to take somebody out of college and 6 weeks later they're a hacker, I take offense at. I think that this is a job where to do it well, you should understand what you do and what you're attacking. And it goes back to, earlier we talked about, to defend an app, you have to understand how to attack. Mm-hmm. I think the reverse is just as true. To attack an app, to truly understand what's vulnerable about it, to truly understand what risk it exposes, you have to understand how to defend it. You have to understand how it's built, what it does, how it functions. We talked in class about the context of that application. And look, I can teach you to hack. I do agree with that part of the article that White Hat posted. I do agree that I can teach you what SQL injection is. I can teach you, did you see that post? That looks bad, doesn't it? That doesn't look normal. That's not how a website usually works. Poke at it, see what happens. I can teach you that. I can't teach you what it's like to see a 5-node Exchange cluster crash and know that you're the guy that has to fix it. I can't teach you what it's like to be the dude that's pager or cell phone, and I know many people don't know what pagers are anymore, but that your pager goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning and you just got to bed 10 minutes ago because your daughter was up throwing up, and then you have to fix the system. And I think that aspect is just as important as the attacking aspect, because it goes back to what do you recommend, right? What was it, last year or the year before, the Department of Homeland Security recommended that everybody uninstall Java from their workstations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you know a single organization that was able to completely remove Java from every workstation?
Heard of one.
It's not possible.
No, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm going to say it's pretty damn close to impossible, right? You might be a two-man shop that is okay with the fact that big parts of the internet doesn't work, but okay, right? And so there's a recommendation. And was DHS right? Yeah, Java sucks. If you're defending, as a pen tester, I think Java is one of the best things we've ever released, right? Yeah. I think Oracle and Adobe have done more for the hackers in the world than anybody else. But when you make a recommendation like that, all that's going to happen is people will ignore it. And so as an attacker, as a pen tester, you have to be able to do actionable recommendations. And to do those, you have to understand how the systems work. So I think that this long, babbling rant, right, boils down to learn how to be in IT. Be that as a developer, be it as an admin, be it as a help desk guy, right? Put your time in. This isn't something that tomorrow you're going to be a pen tester, right? This is something you work on. And then on the other side, and that's your practice. On the other side, start explaining it to people, start exploring stuff, right? Start poking, start responsibly, right? Go download vulnerable apps and test against them in your own lab. Build stuff and figure out things work. And go teach a class, go do a webcast, record a video and put it up on YouTube. Don't read the comments. Right, right off the bat, you're going to get shit from people. But you're learning, you're explaining, you're helping other people. And I think that at a certain point, you make this transition, and it just happens. And everybody I've talked to, everybody I've ever had this conversation with that is in the field as a pen tester like I am, none of us are able to say, that's the day I became a pen tester. Right, I became a pen tester on August 5th, 1863. Right, I look back on my career. I know that, when I talk to James or Jason or Tom or Nathan, yes, I just named all my consultants, but they don't know the day they became a pen tester. They can tell you the day they got hired by SecureIdeas. They can tell you the day they became a consulting pen tester.
The day they got made, basically.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it. I like that. The dawn came and let them in. If they don't do well, horse heads in their bed. But every single one of them was doing some form of pen testing before that. They were doing some form of security before that, right? What was the day you started that? I don't know. It just became part of my job, right? I know for me, the first pen test I ever did was because I worked at a company that was about to have a pen test. We had no idea what the hell was about to happen. So I convinced my manager to let me do a pen test. right? And I did it. And then I went, wow, this was fun. And so that's how I recommend doing it. That does take time, though, and that's not a fun answer, right?
A lot of time, a lot of effort. I mean, your prerequisites for becoming an employee or
a senior consultant
is 10 years.
Yep. Yeah, we talked in class about, for me to hire a senior consultant, they have to have 10 years experience in IT before I hire them, and before I even look at them.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that rudely, I don't mean it discriminatorily, if you're going to be a senior consultant at SecureIdeas, that's what you need.
Because there are no just non-senior consultants.
Currently we have no junior positions. We are looking for how the company will be structured as we move into this channel program, where we're starting to sell vulnerability assessments, right? Which is a role that I won't call them a junior consultant, because I can't ever imagine us having true junior consultants, right?
Yeah.
But somebody who maybe maybe they have 5 years experience, or maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know, and I'm making that up because I really don't know yet. But I do think that SecureIdeas is going through a metamorphosis, and that will involve starting to branch out into bringing in lower level people.
You're going to get into compliance framework consulting.
Come on, chief box checker.
Nope. We are in the process of trying to become an ASV with PCI.
Wow.
So that's close to that, isn't it?
Almost.
Not QSA, ASV. The authorized scanning of it.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
So you scan with a vulnerability scanner, and then
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Look at the results and see if it passes muster from the PCI framework.
That is what an ASV does, yes.
Yeah.
And we are building out an ASV solution that I believe is better than the normal.
Better in what way? Are you going to make?
We have real
force
people
companies to be more secure, or are you going to give them the
better results? I can't force somebody to be more secure, but I believe that our results will be better.
So you'll take the scan results and go, okay, you got this. You need to fix it. So it's going to be more than just submit for the scan, do the scan, and then go, okay, here's your report. You're good.
Yep. We don't know what'll be approved because we have to go through the testing still. And for all I know, we could just fail the testing entirely and give up. So, but we're right at the beginning of that process.
It's amazing.
I don't know if amazing is the word I'd use, but
it's long and arduous.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
It's already been long and arduous. We're still at the beginning.
You gave a lot of advice.
I'm full of advice.
You're full of advice.
My eyes are
Any
brown.
more advice for people who aren't in security yet, who think it might be their next career path?
I think it's an awesome idea. I think we need more security people, right? I don't know. Start doing shit.
You think it's daunting, though? I mean
it's daunting, and I've been doing IT for 23 years, and it's daunting.
Yeah,
Yes, it's daunting. Yeah, it's scary as hell. I think that it's just a matter of get out there and do. Start meeting people. Come out to DerbyCon. Dave Kennedy and his group put on an amazing conference, right? In September. Come hang out, and if you show up, give me a shout. Let's go hang out, because we rent a house, and the whole consulting arm of SecureIdeas comes. And, we teach classes out there and stuff like that. And we have fun. Don't be afraid to walk up to HD Moore, hold out your hand and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. You're amazing, right? And because he's going to go, oh, no, I'm not. And then he's going to talk to you. And you're going to have a fun time. And then, you walk up to other people. I go to DEF CON and I see. And then DEF CON's a little bit different because, you got 26 million of your closest hacker friends. But I see people, they go and they don't talk to anybody and they don't. Stop that, right? Talk to people and get involved. And go to your local ISSA chapter and walk up to a random person at every meeting and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is what I'm doing. What do you do? And start talking to them. And because this is a field where, oh, hey, I talked to that guy 2 months ago. He seemed like a good guy. I need some help with that. Let me call him back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So far, I've been doing strictly almost security. But I haven't found anybody who isn't willing to sit down and talk shop or
there are a number of security people that aren't willing to sit down and talk to you. And if you run into the people that aren't willing to sit down and talk to you, don't let that affect you because they're the asshole. Excuse me, I'm sorry, the whole explicit thing.
Great explicit lyrics.
Yeah.
They'll never make it on iTunes now.
But the people I have found that the people who aren't willing to sit down, grab a soda, grab a bottle of water, grab a beer, whatever, right, and talk to you, really aren't the people you need to talk to anyways, because they're not that good. Most of the people who aren't willing to share don't know anything. And that's why they're not willing to share, because they're scared to death you're going to realize they don't know anything. Look, I'm petrified that people are going to realize I'm faking it. I don't believe I know anywhere near as much as what people think I know. Right, and I talked to people. I said that yesterday when Mono introduced me. It's like, you put me up as this whatever, right? And it's asinine. There is so much stuff I don't know how to do, but I've accepted the fact that there's so much stuff I don't know how to do, and the only way to learn it is by talking to other people. Yeah. And I find that the people who don't talk are the ones that haven't accepted that yet.
Yeah, it sucks that security's that way. I mean, there's so much you could talk. There's malware, there's reverse engineering, there's wireless, there's mobile. And it's like, I want to do a little bit of this, I want to do a little bit of that, and then you end up being like a generalist or something. And then there's people like Charlie Miller, who's mobile, and he's been kicked out of development with Google and Apple, and and he still does the wireless or the mobile stuff. But I was like, I want to learn all that stuff, but it's like, there's only so many freaking hours in the day. Now, if I had insomnia,
just don't sleep.
Just don't sleep.
Yeah. Tell your wife you're very, very sorry, but you need to learn everything.
That's right.
There's somebody on the internet that's wrong right now, and you need to correct them.
That's right. Yeah. I've told her that a few times. Why did you come to bed at 1:30 till 1:30? Somebody was wrong on the internet.
I had to tell them.
I had to fix it.
Yeah. Did you fix it?
No.
No.
Never. They're still wrong when I went to bed.
Yep, I understand.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've been the guy who was wrong. So, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Any other questions? He had a whole list and everything. That's cool.
Well, he was driving,
No, I know. No, I'm saying the fact he wrote it down was awesome.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I'm like,
I had a
question, man.
Yeah.
I don't remember it.
10 minutes from now, I'll be walking down to my car. I'm like, oh, God.
I knew I was supposed to ask that. Yeah. If I get a phone call and it's you, Kevin, one question. You're recording this, aren't you?
Do you ever worry you're spreading yourself too thin?
Do I look thin?
No. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm spreading myself too thin.
You ever worry about that?
No, I don't worry about it because I know what's happening.
Oh.
Right? I mean, I have a full-time consulting job. I have a full-time run a business job. I have a full-time teaching and course update schedule. I run, 16 open source projects that I'm trying to keep updated. I have 2 daughters, a wife, and now I've gotten into the whole building Star Trek. That you have to edit out. I said Star Trek. Oh my gosh. I'm building Star Wars costumes as a hobby now, and I read insatiably. Right? I mean, yes, I'm spreading myself too thin. I know it. There's no worry about it. I'm trying to fix that. I'm trying to get better at it, but I'm a workaholic.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What do you read?
Everything.
Fiction or technical stuff?
I'll read both, but I have a rule. I like right now I've been doing a lot of business reading. E-Myth, Revisited, Entree Leadership by Dave Ramsey. That dude's awesome. And I also read a lot of fiction. I have a rule that the reading I do right before bed has to be fiction. It has to disconnect me from the stuff I'm working on. Yeah. And right now I'm going through the Star Wars expanded universe books. All the Star Wars books. I'm obsessed.
I do the other side, Star Trek, but yeah.
I can't believe I said that. That was awful. Really enjoying the expanded universe and worried about what Disney's going to do with it. Not. I think they're going to do good.
All the canon stuff, though, right? All those books are blessed by the man himself, or whatever.
That doesn't mean they're going to keep it. There's lots of rumors of what they're going to do, and I personally, I'm really thrilled Disney bought Star Wars, the licensing for that, because I think they can do some really cool stuff with it, and I think that I'm also going to enjoy the rabid fans who are like, no matter what they do, they're going to hate it. But yeah, and no, I didn't like Jar Jar Binks. just for the record.
Weird.
I don't know.
I'm
anyone.
surprised by that, actually.
No.
Number 4!
Number four.
Wow.
So,
All right.
makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. I hope that was what you guys were looking for.
Yeah, no, that was excellent.
I'm honored if you guys want to interview me. I don't know why.
No.
Thank you.
All on this side of the table. Really, it was. It was all on this side of the table. I love doing that. We're like, no, all on this side of the table, right here.
Nice. So,
Yeah, right
yeah,
on.
it's fun.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Seriously.
We'll love to have you on
Thank
anytime.
you, Brad.
You just want to come on and talk
Fly out to
shit.
Austin.
If you want to fly out to Austin, we'll go back to Ironworks Barbecue. We'll hit you up. Definitely glad we didn't go to that Italian place. So yeah.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah,
Sorry
me
about
too.
your Italian place, but
I didn't have any clue. I
I'm
was
going
just like,
to pick that
no.
up before I step on it.
Yeah, there's.
I got it. Because I'm really worried I'm going to step on it. So.
Yeah. And then my glasses.
Yeah.
You're going to get... All right, that was awesome. Let's get in, long interview, but let's get into what he talked about. First, it started with rules-based defenses.
That's right. How do people bypass WAFs and firewalls?
Yeah, basically, he said rules-based defenses, unless you're on top of it day in, day out, they're really just a speed bump.
That's right.
To the likes of him and his team. So it's not just that he's the greatest hacker, there is, or some
Kevin Mitnick, lead hacker-ish guy that you see on like Swordfish, the movie with John Travolta. Or
yeah,
whatever.
but he downplays his abilities, but he really says that they're just a speed bump, unless you're really on top of it.
Well, he did have the caveat of if you're using the default rule sets that come with your WAF or, with your firewall, which your firewall should have default deny anyway. But if you're using like the package snort rules or the default settings that come with your, fancy piece of kit, he said you're pretty much, going to be owned quicker than shit. So
yeah, if you don't know what you're doing, it's a waste. It's just a waste. You might defend against script kiddies, but the real nefarious ne'er-do-wellers, they're going to get in.
I see what you did there. Yeah, so that's why when you have a WAF or you have an IDS, you pretty much have to dedicate resources to it. It has to be constantly tuned. It has to be monitored, which is why it's important to, like we said in our events logging podcast, all those logs and all that stuff has to go to a collator, go to a SIM type function where people can monitor that stuff as it comes in.
Yeah, he said a lot of the stock rules they look for. Well, he gave an example. This was not during the podcast, but offline. He said, I typed in 1 = 1 and it blocked me. But I typed 2 = 2, let me right through.
I remember that, yeah, because one very famous WAF that he was talking about, because what did he say? He sat down with the guy and the DBA would say, well, why would somebody even do that? And
yeah, why would you even put that in that text field? Well, yeah, it's self-explanatory. Now, he also said the state of security scares the crud out of me. When I asked him, how secure are we out there? And it's scary how, this is another question we asked him offline, and he answered, like, how many times did you get through, or were you completely blocked or stymied by trying to hack this site? And he goes, once. And the scenario was they did a pen test, fixed everything, did another pen test, fixed everything, did another pen test, fixed everything, and then they called him. And he found one cross-site scripting, and that was it. Yeah. So he said that was the most secure that there was, but he still found cross-site scripting. And there hasn't been a pen test he's ever done that he didn't find one cross-site scripting.
Yeah, during that part of the interview, he did say that there hasn't, except for that one time, he's owned pretty much everything. And he says it it doesn't vary much by industry. He was like, he's gone to power plants where he wasn't able to get a lot of access, and then there's other times where he could have shut power down in 3 states. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's scary, especially if it was, a nuclear plant, for instance. If he was able to scram the reactor and cause a meltdown, not only would he cause a power outage of epic proportions, but he could cause a radioactive fallout event possibly by melting down the reactor.
Yeah, that's scary. And, for the state of nations nowadays, cyber warfare, that's, to hear him say that he can get into almost any company that he does a pen test, when a nation state gets their best hackers and, they do a cyber war against another country, I mean, that says a lot.
Well, that's going on right now, in the geopolitical scene. You've got the Ukraine, who are obviously trying to rebuild their government after the Russian-backed government president has been, kicked out of country. There have been reports that Russian hackers are hacking statecraft hackers, like people employed by the state of Russia, to disrupt Ukrainian communications, to cause additional issues. So there is a silent war going on,
allegedly,
below the waves.
And then, hey, to be a great defender, learn how to hack, and vice versa. I think that's what I came away from our interview is if you have something that you're trying to defend, learn how to break into things similar to it and learn the hacking techniques, and it just makes you a better defender overall. And the inverse is true as well, I think.
Yeah, it's just like any skill or job. You're not going to walk into, give me an example. You're not gonna walk into, so bull riding. You're not just gonna walk right into a bull riding arena and start riding the biggest bull you can find. You gotta start on like a fake bull, for instance, that like the ones at the honky tonk, and
you
work your way up.
You gotta get a few small concussions before you can take the big one and survive.
That's right, and there are numerous amounts of tools out there. He talked about Mutilidae. He talked about Samurai WTF, vulnerable web apps. You can install these things for free. You can test them. You can use the tools that are free, like Burp, which he really likes Burp, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, it's his number one tool.
He loves him some Burp, and I've actually used it quite a bit myself, and I do enjoy it.
And he said, to be good defender or offender, put your time in. Put your time into IT. Learn the basics. Whatever you do, whether you're doing programming or application support, DBA, put your time in there. Learn all the tools of the trade, and then you can get into the more advanced stuff like the hacking, everything like that.
That's right. You're doing a job. You're provisioning servers. You're managing DNS. You're managing Exchange, you're managing Linux clusters, and you're thinking, God, this job sucks. But, I want to get into security. Well, you're actually going to help yourself in the long run by doing your IT job.
Yeah.
Because once you get into security, you'll be like, oh, yeah, I know how to set that up. Man, I was doing that wrong the whole time.
Right. Start at Chapter 1, read Chapter 2, then Chapter 3. Don't jump in at Chapter 12 and expect to, be good at your job initially.
That's right.
I mean, maybe you could do it. I don't know, but wow, that would be tough, and to do it well.
Yeah, and also continue listening to the Breaking Down Security podcast because you can learn valuable information from that.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to get better, get more advanced. Yeah, put your time in. Also, the question or the statement I made, work at McDonald's, that came out of nowhere seemingly, but what I meant to say was, he started working at McDonald's. There's a book I read one time, and the guy's a writer. He writes for newspapers, a syndicated columnist, and people ask him, well, how do I get to be a syndicated columnist? And he goes, well, his background was he went into medical school and he didn't like writing, And then one day somebody said, "Hey, do you want to be a writer?" And he said, "Okay." And then the rest is history. But whenever somebody asks him that, he goes, "Go to medical school." So I said, so start at McDonald's and just work your way up from there.
Yeah, because the working at McDonald's gave him and his twin brother the work ethic they needed to.
He is a twin.
You know, he is an exact twin. I've seen those pictures online. So
is that right?
Yep. So that was our awesome and also our final interview that we've got in the can. If you want to do some interviews or you want to come on, please feel free to do so. So we're gonna go, and we will be back next week with another podcast. It will just be us. It will not be an interview. So for Breaking Down Security, it's Mr. Betcher and myself. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.